What if the Cleveland Browns are once again ignoring their future, and this time it could cost them everything? In one of the most unexpected yet quietly controversial preseason moments, Joe Flacco was officially named the Week 1 starter. A seasoned veteran, 41 years old, respected, but let's be honest, far from the future of the franchise. That's not what raised eyebrows. What did was what came out of Flacco's own mouth just moments later. High praise for one of the youngest, most electric quarterbacks on the team, Shedeur Sanders. Flacco didn't just compliment him. He admitted that Shedeur had been pushing him, outperforming expectations in practices, camps, and off-season drills. It wasn't a passing comment. It was a bold acknowledgement. From one NFL veteran to a rising standout, the torch was practically being passed, and yet, Shedeur's not even second on the depth chart. No game snaps, no first-team reps, not even talk about moving him up. Instead, the Browns' coaching staff seems more committed to sticking to the plan. A plan no one can seem to define. Head coach Kevin Stefanski has offered little clarity on Shedeur's role, dodging questions, sidestepping real answers, and leaving fans, analysts, and even players scratching their heads. It's got people asking one glaring question. Why is the most talked about young player on the roster being completely overlooked? This isn't just about talent, it's about patterns, about decisions and indecisions that seem to haunt the Browns season after season. And if something doesn't change soon, it may not just be Shedeur Sanders who gets left behind, because this time, the consequences could be far greater than anyone expects. When Joe Flacco was officially named the starting quarterback for Week 1, most fans expected a safe, standard press conference. But what they got was something very different. Something that sparked a growing debate neither the Browns nor Flacco himself likely intended. Because instead of focusing on his own comeback story or the pressure of leading a franchise at 41, Flacco took a different route. He made it a point to praise someone else, Shedeur Sanders. It wasn't small talk. Flacco said outright that Shedeur had been pushing him all offseason, in training sessions, minicamps, and those gritty, behind-closed-doors reps that don't always make the headlines. According to Flacco, Shedeur's drive and presence weren't just noticeable, they were motivating. That's a big deal when a Super Bowl MVP with over 15 years in the league admits he's being tested by a rookie. That doesn't happen by accident. Naturally, it didn't take long for fans and analysts to latch on to those comments. If Shedeur is impressing a guy like Flacco that much, why isn't he climbing the depth chart? Why is he stuck behind Dillon Gabriel, who fumbled away a major preseason opportunity and still hasn't found his footing? Why is there no visible pathway forward? The more people looked at Flacco's words, the more they began to mean something else entirely. Not just a compliment, but a quiet warning. Because if the Browns are ignoring what even their own starter is seeing, what else could they be missing? Coming up next, while Shedeur was turning heads, his competition was dropping the ball. Literally. So why did the coaches still look the other way? While Shedeur Sanders was quietly stacking solid performances in practice, another quarterback was given his shot under the bright lights, and it didn't go well. Dillon Gabriel, competing for that critical backup role, got his chance during the preseason, but instead of taking the opportunity and running with it, he fumbled it, literally. A costly turnover in his first preseason start was just the beginning. His timing was off, his rhythm was shaky, and when the stakes got real, Gabriel didn't rise, he sank. Meanwhile, Shedeur, the very player Joe Flacco just praised, wasn't even on the field. No game snaps, no real-time evaluation, not even a brief series with the first team. He's been kept on the sidelines, running drills and taking reps, but only in controlled environments. Despite performing well in practice, he hasn't been allowed to show what he can do when it actually matters. So the question is simple. What are the coaches watching that the rest of us aren't? Because if one quarterback is making mistake after mistake in real games, and the others lighting it up in practices, but never getting a chance to prove himself? Something isn't adding up. And the fans? They notice. Social media has been buzzing. Local sports radios lit up with callers asking the same exact thing. What's really going on with Shedeur Sanders? Even worse, it's starting to feel like deja vu. Another potential star buried by the depth chart politics. But when head coach Kevin Stefanski stepped up to explain it all, things only got more confusing. When Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski finally spoke publicly about the quarterback situation, fans were hoping for clarity, some honest insight into what the team was thinking. Instead, they got vague answers, awkward pauses, and a strange reluctance to even say Shedeur Sanders' name. Asked directly why Shedeur wasn't getting any first-team reps, Stefanski danced around the issue. He claimed that every decision was based on what the players need in order to grow and develop. A nice-sounding phrase that really says absolutely nothing. If Shedeur is exceeding expectations, pushing a veteran in practice, and showing flashes of big-time upside, how exactly is doing nothing the approach that helps him develop? Even more concerning was Stefanski's sudden decision to start Joe Flacco in the third preseason game, a move he had avoided with starters in previous years. Reporters pressed him, asking what changed. His response? That's just what this team needs to get ready. No conviction, no plan, just another foggy, forgettable quote. It didn't sound like leadership. It sounded like stalling. And for a fan base that's seen this story before, talented young players buried under confusing coaching decisions, it's all starting to feel way too familiar. The Browns aren't just dodging tough questions, they're avoiding accountability. And the consequences of that won't just fall on Shedeur Sanders. They could shape the future of the entire franchise. But the confusion didn't stop with the coaches. Analysts and even insiders started calling it out publicly, and they weren't pulling any punches. If Browns fans were frustrated by Stefanski's vague answers, analysts didn't just share their concern, they amplified it. Garrett Bush, a respected voice in Cleveland sports media, took the gloves off. On air, he blasted the Browns organization for what he called a classic case of self-sabotage. According to him, it's not just about who gets the start. It's about developing your future. And in Bush's words, Cleveland has a 41-year-old quarterback one injury away from disaster, and they're letting their most promising talent run drills with the support staff, instead of preparing him to lead. He didn't stop there. Bush directly called out Stefanski's leadership, claiming the head coach isn't doing what's best for the team, but instead sticking to a stale system and avoiding real decisions. The Browns, watching opportunity walk right out the door, again. Analyst after analyst echoed the same message. Why invest in a young, dynamic quarterback like Shedeur Sanders if you're not even willing to test his ceiling? Why praise his performance in every interview, but give him nothing meaningful on game day? Even insiders started pointing out the obvious. This isn't a talent issue. This is a trust issue, a leadership issue, a vision issue. And most damning of all, Bush said it outright. These are the kinds of choices that keep the Browns from becoming a serious football team. But perhaps what's worse than the coaching decisions is the fact that even his teammates don't know where Shedeur stands. And one of them, Joe Flacco himself, just gave a brutally honest reality check. While analysts and fans continued asking why Shedeur Sanders wasn't seeing real game action, you know who else seemed to be asking in a very subtle but telling way? Joe Flacco. Yes, the same quarterback who was just named the starter. The same 41-year-old veteran who could easily treat this like his final lap. But instead, Flacco made an unusual move. He didn't take the opportunity to talk about how he earned the role. He didn't focus on his experience, leadership, or knowledge of the league. He gave the spotlight to Shedeur. Flacco went on record saying that Shedeur is the kind of talent who forces you to elevate your own game, even in practice. He didn't sugarcoat the NFL grind either, calling it repetitive, even boring at times, especially for young quarterbacks stuck on the sidelines. But then came the key line. It's on him to push through the boredom, to stay mentally locked in. That's where reactions became mixed. Some fans appreciated the veteran's advice, but many saw it another way, as dismissive. Because how can a player push through without opportunity? How can he stay ready when the system won't even call his number? It's the same old story. When things go wrong, the blame will fall on the young guy who never even got a real chance to prove himself. It's one thing for a coach to be uncertain, but when even respected veterans are wondering aloud about how Shedeur is being handled, you start to realize the issue runs deeper. And Ryan Clark? He took it one step further. He didn't just question the process, he called it a failure. Joe Flacco might have meant well, but when he stepped up to defend the coaching staff's decision to keep Shedeur Sanders off the field, it only made things worse. In his own words, the league is mentally draining, especially for rookies. He didn't deny that Shedeur may be feeling bored, restless, or even frustrated, watching from the sidelines. But instead of questioning the system, Flacco doubled down on the mindset approach. According to him, it's not about what the coaches are doing. It's on Shedeur to stay mentally locked in and play the long game. Sure, that sounds like classic veteran advice, but to fans, it came off like gaslighting. Because how exactly is Shedeur supposed to stay ready when he's never even given the chance to get ready?